Alright, let's go. Okay, deep breath.
This is a crazy girl.
Hi, my name is Shealy, and I'm here today to tell y'all about how I at least somewhat overcame my fear of the unknown. This whole story begins with me sitting on my front porch on a brisk fall morning. It was the middle of September 2017, and I was waiting for a certain car to pull into my driveway. Just days before I had finished my driving school, and now it was time for my driving lessons. There was a big problem though. I had never driven in my entire life. I always had a fear of driving as a kid. I thought that I was going to cause a crash and injure myself or others. Funnily enough, I felt much more comfortable around things like guns than cars, even though the prior were much more dangerous. I was just sitting there wallowing in my thoughts until my instructor, Van, pulled up in a tiny white Prius with driving stickers all over it. I'm 6'2", 200 pounds, and he was even bigger, but somehow we both squished ourselves into the clown car and got ready to go. When I say I've never driven before, I legitimately was a complete novice. I knew so little about driving that I didn't know that cars move themselves forward when you put them in park or drive. I began to think that I had a long 4 hours ahead of me, which just started with laps around my neighborhood and getting comfortable behind the wheel. I eventually worked up the confidence to drive on the highway and began the long but surprisingly comfortable drive to Georgetown and beyond. As I drove to where Van told me to, I began to get distracted from my fears by conversation, and my thoughts began to wander as I slowly became acclimated to the road. We drove and drove and drove to who knows where, from Georgetown to Mount Pleasant and everywhere in between. But before I knew it, Van told me to take a U-turn and head back home. We went back to the Georgetown High School parking lot and began to practice emergency procedures and parallel parking. He taught me a trick to make the parallel parking drill infinitely easier than in real life, and the emergency procedures were simple and came to me naturally. I then drove back home and finished my first day of driving lessons with Van. Soon after, I realized that I was being a worrywart earlier for no good reason. I had been psyching myself up the entire day before, thinking of only the worst things possible. But when the time came, it turns out I was worried about nothing. I thought about the fact that people drive all the time and don't even worry about it, as it just becomes a normal part of their day. Through that experience, I learned an important lesson: to not fear the unknown. What point there is fearing something you know nothing about? I knew jack about driving other than the fact I was scared of it, and that was certainly a limiting ideology. Imagine a world where people never branched away from their comfort zone, or a world in which people never dared to try something new. This may sound like some sort of stupid overreaction when the belittling context of someone's first time driving, but it meant a lot more to me than it probably does to you. From then on, I at least attempt to try everything once, before either accepting it or putting it off and disregarding it. Whether it be a new food, meeting a new person, or doing an activity I've never done before, I think to myself that it probably won't be as bad as I think it will. I hope you're here today and will remember that what I'm saying, and the next time you are presented with a new opportunity, don't let it pass you by. Reach out and grasp it, as you never know if something you're scared of at first will become your next big obsession. In the end, it turns out, don't knock it until you try it is a much better mindset to undertake than it seems. Let's do something stupid and gross, like drinking cake mix mixed with water, like somebody I know. Thank you for listening to my speech, and I hope you all have a good rest of the day.